Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I'm joined here as always by the man who would never fumble the ball in field goal range. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing good. It was a good afternoon of football. We had some sloppy games in the morning. 21 interceptions in the first slate of games. I think a lot of that had to do with 6 rookie quarterbacks, but it came back. Afternoon games were great. Sunday night football was great. Good stuff all around.
Yes, it was it was weird. I mean, in the early state, every quarterback was seemingly playing horrible. Like even like the good ones, like it's like Sam Darnold was like, okay, he's doing good for Sam Darnold. It's not like he was like Aaron Rodgers out there. And then every quarterback was having a bad day, some worse than others. We will get into that in a second. People very pumped up in my YouTube comments that Zach Wilson had a bad day, and I'm going to have to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get into that. But first, we got to tip our caps to Lamar Jackson. He was.
Yes.
I mean, we'll segue right into the Sunday night game with that. That was just an incredible second half for him after struggling in the first half of this one. 2 picks obviously led the game off with the pick 6. But, one of the things we talked about last week, especially with these injuries that they're dealing with right now, is it just feels like Lamar has to be kind of Superman for this team to win games. And in this game, he was Superman in the second half. He was that good. Hollywood Brown even made an appearance. Someone I criticized a lot was really good in this game too. So an impressive game for the Ravens offense and a very impressive game. A big win for Lamar.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, my thought with this one is who wins if they're slated in as quarterback instead of Lamar Jackson in this game? Like maybe Mahomes. I think that this was the and again, part of that is okay, Tom Brady doesn't win with that team, but they don't. The Buccaneers built the team for Tom Brady, not for Lamar Jackson, so that's why. But I actually thought the receiving core was solid in this one. Like they showed them some flashes. It wasn't spectacular, but if they could just be like a tier 4 receiving core, this is all of a sudden a different football team. And yeah, I mean, Lamar Jackson was incredible. The second interception was bad. That was just a bad read. He was trying to make something happen on a 3rd and long. Should not have done that. Should have just, done something safer. The first one, though, I believe it was Sammy Watkins just fell down. It's hard to really blame him too much for, maybe he could have noticed it, but that didn't seem like that was a horrible play by Lamar anyways. Maybe you can put some blame on him, but I thought that was kind of just one of those unfortunate scenarios that happened to have the worst possible scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it was, but unfortunately it's a pick on his ledger. So it's, it looks like his fault. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, it's just, they made adjustments too. They stopped throwing the ball downfield as much, except for that broken play for Hollywood Brown, which they got a huge chunk out of. And, the Chiefs were kind of giving them passing plays underneath, and then Lamar just started hitting them. And that was something that I think a lot of people are criticizing for, is that the short to intermediate passing game, especially the timing routes. It felt like he was constantly missing those throws, and it was hurting this team. And in the second half, he wasn't missing those throws. And then obviously his work at the read option, he's the best in the league at that, and that's what he does really well. I guess the one thing I am curious with this Ravens offense, with the amount of guys that are out of this team right now, and I don't think there's a perfect solution to it, but why would you even key in on a running back in a read option right now? Why wouldn't you just go straight for Lamar every time? Because I'm okay with the running back getting 5 yards, honestly. I'm not letting Lamar get 20 because he can shift his way through everybody. And I'm wondering, because we saw a couple of plays with Chris Jones stuck on the edge hesitating. I honestly wonder if guys are just going to start to say, just go and hit him and knock him down, and we'll deal with the running back.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, I've always kind of been a believer in just guess. You get one wrong, great, you give up 7 yards, then you get the other one right. Well, okay, now it's 3rd down. So, you have a 50-50 shot. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to, go after Lamar, that makes sense to me, because at least when the running back if it's Latavius Murray, okay, he might get the 1st down. He's not going to get a 50-yard touchdown. Lamar has a chance to do that.
Yeah, that's the one thing I noticed on that side of the ball. And then on the other side, you have to give credit to the Ravens again in that second half. They got the stops on Kansas City when they needed to, especially in those last couple of drives of the game. Even before the turnover, they got Kansas City off the field offensively multiple times. Those young guys in the secondary coming up and replacing guys like Marcus Peters. I forgot the kid who broke up the third down play to Tyreek Hill, but that was fantastic coverage. And I got to give them credit too, because I locked this game up for the Chiefs. I said they were that much better and that the matchup was in their favor. The Ravens finally changed things up against the Chiefs. They stopped blitzing as much. They hardly blitzed at all in the first half. And they were still kind of running a single high safety rather than their cover zero stuff. But it seemed like the secondary safety was staying deeper than usual in like a cover one scenario, that he was kind of like 10 yards downfield rather than coming up into the box sort of situation. And I thought that really worked for them, and they did a good job, and they can kind of run their defense while also not running their defense. And I thought it was a good job.
Yeah, interesting stuff. That was Anthony Averett, spelled Avere, spelled Averett, but I don't know if that's a name. But that's who had that play that you mentioned. And we also should mention, I mean, the Odafe Owe fumbled there. I mean, the reality is, as much as I'm, as a big Lamar guy, I had him as a top 5 quarterback in that quarterback rankings. We have to mention, like, they don't win this game if Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I believe it was him who fumbles the ball there at the end. The Kansas City Chiefs can just run out the clock, kick a field goal as time expired to win by a point. They fail to do so. That can't happen. He had one hand on the ball. You got to understand the situation there. You can't fumble it there.
Yeah, it's and it was an interesting situation because a lot of what we've seen with Kansas City over these last 2 years since drafting Clyde was that they liked him in, 1st and 10 running situations, certain run situations, but it seemed like in third down situations, goal line situations, they trust Williams. And they give the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire here, and he fumbles the ball and puts it on the ground, and that ends the game. So where does that leave Edwards-Helaire for the season now? Because this is, one of the biggest plays of the game was on you for putting the ball on the ground. Is this just going to become Williams' backfield almost at this point? Because that's a big play and he blew it, and that's something that they haven't trusted him with as much in the past. And that's been Williams' role, to be kind of that secure blanket in the backfield.
Yeah, and my thing about this, we saw like Ronald Jones, for example, in Tampa Bay, to talk about my team, like he had a horrible blitz pickup that resulted in a sack right away. And my kind of thing is like, okay, maybe Edwards-Helaire has a slight, has an upgrade in the running game, but like, I don't care. Like, you got to do this other stuff. I'd rather a running back who can block and who doesn't fumble the football way more than a guy who is maybe a more explosive runner. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey has a bit of a fumble problem, okay, you work with that. But if it's someone else, I mean, it's one play. We can't completely overreact, but it cost them a game. They're 2-0 if he doesn't fumble there.
Yeah. And they're second place in the division, whatever that means 2 weeks into the season. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge situation. The other thing I think about, like, obviously standard thought there is to run the football and just get in field goal range. But part of me is just like, man, you have Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Like, why not just keep the ball in their hands and let them make plays? Well, I mean, I just don't think Mahomes is going to make a mistake in that situation, and you're okay with it. They could even run that stupid jet pass thing that, everybody in the league does now. But you could do that with Tyreek Hill 3 times too and still have the same effect as what you had there in that situation. Part of me is like, why even take the ball out of Mahomes' hand in that situation?
I feel like that's being a bit results oriented. Like, I don't think anyone complains about this play call if he doesn't fumble here. I feel like, if Mahomes does make one of those throws and it's incomplete and now the Ravens have a little bit of time left, well, now you are blaming the throw. So I think it was the right call. I just think you can't fumble.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair because, I mean, like I said, the standard thought there is you run the football. And yeah, I mean, it's just a tough situation for Helaire. I hope he's able to get back on the field, but I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes Williams' backfield, like I said.
Yeah, to move off of the Kansas City Chiefs running back room for a second, I know that's the main thing people want to talk about, but we also should mention, Mahomes did have an ugly interception, and he'll do this from time to time. He'll have some of those plays that make you just go, what in the world? So that did happen. Obviously, the good outweighed the bad, over 10 yards per attempt for Mahomes, 343 yards, 31 attempts. But, again, nitpicking the greatest quarterback on the planet probably is what we're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, he was fantastic except for that one throw. That was a throw that Carson Wentz looked at and said, hey, I've done that.
Right.
I'm just gonna, but
Verbal meme, the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV meme. That was Winston, Jameis Winston, when they saw that.
Oh man, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't a good decision to try and throw that ball, but you also take all of the good with Patrick Mahomes, like you said, he was fantastic in a large majority of this game.
Yeah, obviously Travis Kelce had that incredible catch and run as well. And one more thing we should talk about a little bit more maybe is that you brought it up, but the Ravens did sort of change their strategy, which it was obvious they had to do it, but still we've seen a lot of head coaches and a lot of coordinators in general not do the obvious thing.
And specifically with this Ravens team, we have seen them not do the obvious thing in the past, and that was the reason why I picked the Chiefs. Is like the Ravens have shown that even in last game against the Raiders that they don't want to change who they are defensively. Doesn't matter what the personnel is out there. Doesn't matter what the team does on the other side of the ball. They don't want to change. This game, they finally said, okay, we can't beat this team with our style. We need to change up our style a little bit. And they were able to do some things that they still like to do while also, changing to cater so that they're not getting burned for 30-yard touchdowns on every play. And that's something that killed them in the game last season that they were able to adjust to and make in this one. So, I thought it was a good performance overall for the Ravens and incredible second half of football.
Yeah, very good. Also, I guess last thing to talk about in this one before we move on, that I'm not sure if you saw the clip that was on going on Twitter, or the broadcast caught John Harbaugh going to Lamar saying, "Lamar, you want to go for it?" There's a response, and then he says, "All right, let's do it." Very cool stuff there.
Is any quarterback in the league going to say, "Nah, I don't want to go for it"? Like maybe Matt Ryan just saying like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm not sneaking this ball." But like everybody else just going to be like, "Yeah, I'll go for it. I can get a yard." And especially Lamar. That's the right call every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, I felt it more of like he was just kind of almost letting Lamar feel like he's the guy who's saying, "Yeah, let's go for it," and pumping him up before it. I don't know. Maybe Kirk Cousins probably doesn't.
I don't know. He still can hand it off to Dalvin Cook at least.
That's true. He probably said, "Yeah, let's do it." It's a rushing play, right? Yeah. Maybe Daniel Jones doesn't do it.
Daniel Jones would fumble the ball on a QB sneak.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Yes, maybe. I think Zach Wilson, after the way that game was going, he's probably keep the ball. Put it in someone else's hands. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Let's segue right there. This was a rough one for the Jets. It's tough being as the the founder of the Zach Wilson fan club. This is a rough day. You're wearing your Mac Jones jersey, but we have to start with the 19 for 33, 210 yards. That's not bad. Not the best stat line in the world, but that's fine. I'm pretty sure that's all that the stat line said, right, Kyle?
Yeah, that was all it was. At one point he only had he had 4 completions and 4 interceptions up.
Yeah.
So it was bad. It was bad to watch. I guess I'll say this. There was a couple throws that it's like, what are you doing? But there was also a couple throws that I felt like his team let him down at times. The first pass, it looked like, I think it was Davis that was basically bumped off his route and stopped trying on it. Obviously, it was a really athletic play by the Patriots for that first pick. But from there, it was tough throws. The second pick, the receiver could have caught it, but at the same time, they schemed him an easy throw to the running back. It just seemed like, okay, you threw the interception. Let's get you a rollout play, throw it to the running back, get 5 or 6 yards, get a rhythm going. He decides to go downfield. He's rolling out to his right, throws it. It's high and wide because he's rolling out to his right. It tips off his receiver's hands and goes right to Adrian Phillips. The third throw, I had no idea what he was looking at. J.C. Jackson was just sitting there. And it was a perfect throw to J.C. Jackson. And then the fourth interception obviously was it just seemed like a hope and a prayer, and it went right to Devin McCourty. So it was a tough game for Wilson. I'll admit. Now, the same thing I was going to say about this is the same thing I said about Micah Parsons last week. Anybody expecting Zach Wilson to play Bill Belichick his second game of his NFL career and be good, if he was good in this game, I would have been writing his ticket to the Hall of Fame. Now, obviously, there was a lot of really bad to this game, but he's going to learn. There were still some good throws here. He had a really nice throw to Braxton Berrios on the sideline. That was impressive. He still had some plays. But, yeah, overall, it was a very bad game. And, the Jets lost. It's the Jets.
Yeah, I like this comment by Ronaldo. Remember, Zach Wilson is only 16 years old, so he has time. Yes, very true there. So I actually didn't. I haven't watched this whole game yet, and we do this sometimes where I didn't have time to get to every single game, so I kind of didn't spend as much time on this one. Knowing you're a Patriots fan, you spent a lot of time. You were probably very focused on it. To me, this is the game though that I really have to see the all 22 footage to really know what's going on. Like those two of those interceptions, I'm like, I just can't tell why he did that. So I can't. I don't want to crush him for it. And that's why I'm waiting until, people want me to make a film study already, but I just feel like I can't do that if, we don't know necessarily what, I'm trying to figure out if we don't know exactly what happened. I feel like that would be sort of not the best way to do that. So that'll come out in a couple of days. We'll get some more information on that. But yeah, to me, the biggest surprise it's not that Zach Wilson played horribly. It's that the amount of comments I've received saying Zach Wilson is a bust. And I'm kind of like, whoa, hold on a second. Like, I know that we kind of have Jets PTSD of them ruining quarterbacks, but I think that seems like insane to say after his second start, especially when his first start was actually like, it was up and down, but like he showed some flashes against apparently a good defense. We'll get to that in a second, but calling him a bust after 2 games is asinine to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of judgment off of these guys over 2 games. And I mean, honestly, it's a little ridiculous because it's like, I mean, if anything, this just proves that fans need to calm down a little because none of these guys, I think there's fair portions of these games where none of these guys look ready to play. It's a big jump to the NFL level. And I think all of these guys have had their adjustments and growing pains to it. And as we saw 6 rookie quarterbacks take the field in the early games at one point or another, that's an adjustment to that next level. So it's a difficult thing to deal with. And I thought both of these rookies struggled in this game. I thought, Wilson obviously had the more egregious struggles and the bigger things, but, I thought Mac took some lumps in this game too. And I mean, we can get into the Patriots side if you want to about this one.
Let's hold on a second because the chat is coming at me a little bit. There's, Jackson eating crow on his Zach take right now. No, not. I think he had a bad game. That's okay. There's I think that people are, and someone's saying, why didn't you do a video on Zach Wilson? If he threw 4 touchdowns, you'd have had a video out. Well, yeah, because I would have known that he did well, and I wouldn't be confused on what are you talking? This is something I've gotten so much, like as if me not making a video the day of is me trying to pretend like he didn't have a bad game. He's not my brother. Like I thought he would do well. Oh, right. Because Trevor Lawrence completely has lit it up these first 2 weeks. What a horrible take 2 weeks in. I will be saving receipts, Kyle, if Zach Wilson turns this around, which I think he will. And I don't know. I just think it's crazy. Like he had a bad game. I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, there's no explanation needed for this. I still think all of these guys have absurd talent. I still think all of these guys have legit talent levels to be good starting quarterbacks in the NFL. But there's growing pains to being a starting quarterback in the NFL, especially with how a lot of these offenses in college operate now and the jump it takes. It's a tough situation to get into, and especially when you're drafted that early, you're generally playing for the worst teams in the league. So it makes it even harder to make that jump. All of these guys, I think, are going to be fine overall. They're going to take their lumps. Guess what? Trevor Lawrence wasn't good today. Justin Fields had his fair share of struggles today. Davis Mills wasn't good today. Mac Jones struggled today. There is plenty of guys who struggled today that are young quarterbacks. I'm not judging them off of their second start of their career.
Yeah, and again, the thing is, like Justin Herbert lost 45-0 against the Patriots. Like Bill Belichick has done this for forever, so I don't know. And again, he was horrible. Like I'm trying to be very clear. Like he was not good, but I think that's. Again, I just want to see more. I want to see how these mistakes were made. If you can explain to me just watching the broadcast footage how that 3rd and 4th interception happened, then cool. But I bet you can't because I don't think anyone can without seeing the whole thing. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something where you have to see the whole field. I will say it looked like the 3rd interception. It looked like he just misread the coverage. It had to be.
It's possible, but again, you say it looks like. I want to know.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, overall,
and also just to be clear, like. I try to be a little bit more careful when I bash a quarterback than when I praise a quarterback. For me, I'll praise someone whatever, because if I get something wrong, like who cares? But I don't want to bash someone, then turns out I get something wrong. Like to me, that feels a lot worse.
Yeah. I mean, people have bad games. Aaron Rodgers sucked last week. Aaron Rodgers isn't a bust. I mean,
right. Hey, we don't know that yet. Still time.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be fine for Zach Wilson. It's just going to be a rough season for the Jets, I think, honestly. So
yeah,
they
people
got a few
bringing
years
up
to go.
Yeah, people bring up other quarterbacks who had bad day. I mean, every quarterback had a bad day. Let's talk about the Patriots, though. Again, I'm so directly tied to the Zach Wilson thing. That's what people want to hear about. But we should talk about the Patriots as well. Your team, Kyle. How are you feeling?
The funny thing is I'm going to sound like a total fan here with all of this because I was excited after the first week loss. I was a little frustrated with this game in week 2, even though they won 25-6. And it's just like, part of me kind of wants Mac Jones to make some mistakes. And it's not like I don't want him to throw 4 interceptions in a game. That's not what I want at all. But, I want him to take some chances. I want them to test his limits a little bit more because a lot of the scheming is no more than 10 to 12 yards down the field. And the couple times he threw the ball down, I think he threw the ball 15 plus yards down the field. I think it was 3 or 4 times. And 2 of them were completions. One was off a nasty play action. Hunter Henry was wide open for a big game. And then Jacoby Myers had a big fade route that had a nice game too. That was the 2 completions. And then there was other stuff where it's just like, we're not taking chances. And it's like, if you're not taking chances against the Jets, I mean, who are you going to take any of those chances against? When are you going to start scheming up big plays against the Saints and the Buccaneers the next 2 weeks? That doesn't sound like a good idea. So that was the thing I was frustrated with because while I still like a lot of what I see from Jones and I like his progressions, I like his ability to, throw guys open, do different things. I just want to see this offense open up a little bit more because I think it's capable of doing that. And the offense in this iteration right now, if you're looking at potential playoff teams, this offense isn't keeping up with the Ravens. It's not keeping up with the Raiders. It's not keeping up with the Chargers. I question whether it could keep up with either of those 2 AFC South teams. So, if you're balancing this team and trying to figure that stuff out, you got to be able to keep up with your competition. If you're not going to willing to take any chances with this team, I'm not as anti Josh McDaniels as a lot of guys, but I do want to see a little bit more from this offense.
Yeah, so is this, I guess the question is, and again, we've gone very long on these couple of games. It might be another one of those marathon podcasts like we had last week. But I saw, it's weird because you look at the stat lines for the Patriots running backs and looks like fine. Like Damian Harris, 16 carries for 62 yards, although he had like that one incredible run and that kind of shifted it in a lot of ways. Mac Jones, not a ton of yards, 186 on 30 attempts, so it's not like he was barely throwing the ball. I guess just my question is this a scheme thing? Or do the Jets have a good defense? Is it the Patriots thing? What would you say is the main thing here? Again, as someone who didn't follow, I basically paid no attention to that side of the ball this game.
I mean, I would say part of it's a scheme thing. I thought the Jets defense actually did all right in spots. The Marcus May was good in coverage at times. The defensive end for the Jets with 3 names was taking advantage of Durant at right tackle, who was subbing in for Trent Brown, and that was a big thing too. We couldn't really develop big plays early in the game because Durant was just, a sieve on that side of the offensive line. And the defensive end made some good plays that I'm forgetting his name right now. So I think it was a solid defense. Mosley was also good in this game, I thought too. But I also feel like there wasn't a willingness to want to make any of those plays or take any of those chances, where I thought there might be some opportunity to just say, hey, let's take a chance here. They, when they finally ran some play action, Hunter Henry was wide open down the field and had a big play out of it. So I think there were some chances that they didn't make, but I also think that there was also some opportunities that were kind of beaten by the roster at hand right now.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff there. And also, by the way, no one's tweeted at me, hey, Jackson, Mac Jones does look like one of the most NFL ready quarterbacks. You nailed that take. No one said that. Haven't gotten a single hey, good take on that one.
You got to go harder with that take, man. Just keep pounding it. Hey,
that's what I said.
Yeah.
I unironically think that's one of my biggest flaws as a YouTuber is I don't brag enough about the correct takes I've been right at. I think that's something that I'll work on it. We'll workshop this. Let's cheer myself up a little bit, Kyle. Let's talk some Falcons, Buccaneers. Is Tom Brady really going to win the MVP at 44 years old? Is this what's happening here, Kyle?
He might. They almost hit the over by themselves. The over was 52. They just hit 48 with 2 defensive touchdowns.
Mike Edwards, 2 pick sixes.
Yeah, I mean the Bucs were really good in this game. Rob Gronkowski is back.
Hmm.
Mike Evans is, as good as ever. Everyone overreacting to week one. Chris
Of
Godwin
course.
made a fantastic play. Everything offensively really worked for the Bucks. And, even when the Falcons pulled this game to 3, because it was 28-25 at one point, I just felt like that, like, it almost felt like the Buccaneers were just that, like, the bigger kid on the schoolyard just kind of holding their hand out while the little kid's trying to swing. It just felt like they had the Falcons at arm's length the entire time, even though the Falcons got this game pretty close.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of like when we see I've watched a lot of baseball this year with my team doing very well and the Tampa Bay Rays, and it felt like going like you're up 4-0 against the Orioles and give up 3 runs, and you're like, yeah, we'll be fine. Like that's just kind of how it. I was not nervous by any means in this one, and even though I thought the Falcons actually played all right offensively, I mean, Matt Ryan had 300 yards, although he threw the ball 46 times. Did have 3 picks. I felt like it was kind of they weren't all his fault. It's kind of just one of those weird things. But yeah, I mean, the story is like this Buccaneers offense is incredible. Yes, it's the Falcons and the Cowboys, but I mean, Justin Herbert only put up 17 against them, in his game. I guess you still have to be able to do well. And I mean, Brady over 600 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 2 picks, and neither of them were his fault. I mean, just it's been an incredible performance. I thought that his first week was very much him doing stuff. This was more of him letting his playmakers make plays. But again, that goes back to this is just a ridiculous offense.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many weapons on this one. The running game was a lot better in this week too. I thought Fournette was pretty good in this game. Yeah, I mean, the Bucks are really good, and it's like they even had plays where it's like the Falcons were trying to scheme away from their guys defensively, and the other guys defensively still made plays. They had one play where they got to like a 3rd and 1 situation and went hurry up because they didn't want Vita Vea to come back onto the field. And then the guy who was the backup defense or the pass rushing defensive tackle still blew up the play on 3rd and 1 and forced the Falcons to punt. And it was just like nothing would go right for the Falcons in those situations. They ended up stringing together some nice drives and making this kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, the Bucks are just a different class right now.
Yeah, and again, Kyle Pitts had 73 yards. That's nice to see as a very hyped up player. And also, last point, dual threat, elite runner Tom Brady, really showing that, why he's an 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah, I mean, incredible play there, getting outside the pocket and making the play. That's going to be so annoying when, like, of all the people, like when he rushes for a first down on 3rd down because you just stop like worrying about him. That's going to be so annoying.
Yeah, pour one out for Brian Urlacher back in the day. Let's move on. Let's talk about this one. Vikings Cardinals, just complete chaos broke loose. Maybe we overreacted to the Cardinals' good week 1 performance on their defensive side. The offense looked good. Kyler did have a number of mistakes. One of them probably shouldn't have been an interception because there was a face mask on him, so that kind of makes it there. Although he did have a couple other sort of plays that could have been turnovers and weren't, but still 400 yards on 36 attempts. So he's taken some chances, but the good has by far and away outweighed the bad. I guess that's probably, probably the main story is why can't the Vikings make a kick in a big moment? Why can they not seem to figure this out?
It honestly, I was like, oh, this game's over because the Vikings had about as perfect of a first half as you could have had offensively, and we're still losing. And I'm like, if you're going to do all that and go down at halftime, that just screams bad juju. But the defense actually recovered in the second half. Both of these defense I actually thought played better in the second half. And like Danielle Hunter was a menace in the second half, specifically getting after Kyler. They made some plays. Can't make the kick, though, and that really hurts. The guy nails 2 50-yarders earlier in the game. Can't hit the 30-plus yarder to win the game. That obviously hurts. The Vikings are cursed. Let me throw this one at you. I hate the comparison sometimes because I feel like anytime a guy likes to throw the ball downfield a lot and like throw on the run, they're instantly compared to Brett Favre.
Mm-hmm.
But is Kyler Murray the modern-day evolution of Brett Favre?
That's interesting. Again, we've had this before. Like, Jameis Winston got the Brett Favre comparisons a lot. Mahomes has gotten the Brett Favre comparisons a lot. But I think Winston throws too many interceptions to be Brett Favre, which sounds weird to say, but it's true. I think that Mahomes doesn't throw enough to be Brett Favre. Through 2 weeks, you definitely see that. I mean, he's definitely been a gunslinger through 2 weeks. That's how he's done it. And again, there was a couple that could have been interceptions and weren't. There was one that was like tipped right in the defender's hands, and then that got tipped up and ended up being a completion for the Cardinals. So that was kind of funny. But again, it's like, I don't want to focus on the negatives here because there are a few negatives in his game, but when he takes these chances, it by far and away works out in the positive than in the negative. So I just think this was listen, he was really good. I also think the flip side is this Vikings defense might still suck.
Yeah, I mean, it probably still sucks. I mean,
it still sucks. I mean, we can just say it still sucks.
Yeah, I mean, there are some bad plays here, but yeah, I mean, I just thought Kyler, for the mistakes too, he still had some just incredible throws, honestly. Like some of them, he had a third down off his back foot that he threw 30 yards. I saw the stats somewhere that he was like 7 for 8 on balls 20 plus yards for 2 touchdowns. Like, that's just absurd. Like, how does that happen? Part of that's probably also on the Vikings defense, but yeah, I mean, it was an incredible game for him. This just screams like the worst luck season that the Vikings are going to win like 5 games, right?
Well, they had a very similar thing happen last year, I thought, where like they got off to a slow start and then were able to get better. Dalvin Cook is very good. That's not exactly a hot take. 131 yards on just 26 carries, 6 yards per carry, and he carried the ball 22 times, or 22, not 26. So that was very good. I thought that Kirk Cousins played well, not spectacular. He was fine. I mean, he was, a Kirk Cousins-led game. I think that, there's no way this performance changed how you feel about Kirk Cousins. There just isn't. But really what this came down to, I mean, they played well. I thought that, Kyler made a couple of mistakes that kind of gave the Vikings a chance. The Vikings didn't make those mistakes, but again, it came down to a missed kick.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings put themselves in a position to win against a team that might be a playoff team this year. They just didn't win. And I thought Kirk actually had a really good first half. It didn't really continue the second half. Things kind of stalled for the Vikings offensively in the second half. So, I mean, that's really what killed them in the end. I mean, like I said, things went almost perfectly, especially, the second play of the game, they had a 64-yard touchdown pass. Things went perfectly in the first half for the Vikings, and yet you were down at halftime, and that really hurts. I guess the one thing I'll say about the Vikings is they found another receiver because that KJ Osborne looks legit. Speaking of the guy with the 64-yard touchdown on the second play of the game, he was really good in this game too. So, maybe they have just another weapon to this team.
Yeah, and how about Rondale Moore, who I believe was a 2nd or 3rd round pick? I mean, he had it was that one giant play where it was probably blown coverage, but still, let's give him credit. 114 yards in his second NFL game. That's fun.
Yeah, he was good. He almost had a fumble too at the goal line. That was interesting, but overall, just a really good game for him. So, yeah, I mean, it was an exciting game. I like watching both of these teams for the good and the bad for both of them.
Yeah, definitely. And so I guess, how are we feeling about the Cardinals? Are the Cardinals or do we even know? Do we need more time? Because again, they looked so good defensively week 1. This defense definitely looked a lot more like and again, it's the Vikings. They run the ball well against everybody. They ran the ball well against Tampa Bay's run defense last year. It's kind of what they do, but they still had success doing that. So how do you feel about the Cardinals through 2 weeks?
I want to see a little bit more. The NFC West is obviously very good, but I also think that playing the AFC South and the NFC North has helped early in this season. I want to see them go against some of these NFC West teams because I think that's going to tell a lot more about this team. I still thought that they capitalized on some broken coverages from Minnesota, and I just don't know if you're going to see that from teams like San Francisco and Los Angeles specifically. So I'm interested to see this team going forward. I want a little more data before I say this is a playoff team or this team could win the division, because honestly, if I'm power ranking these teams right now, as impressive as some of their wins have been, I still might have them 3rd in the NFC West, or maybe even, honestly, probably 3rd in the NFC West right now.
Yeah. So who is, I guess, what power rank the NFC West? Where are you going?
Niners, Rams, Cards, Seahawks off the top of my head.
Wow. I think Niners over Rams might be a hot take, but we can get into that in a second, perhaps. Let's talk some Raiders. Everyone wants to talk the Raiders. We know what we're here for. I mean, listen, this was a good. I mean, Derek Carr is having a very good start to this season. I thought that the Steelers coverage still played fine. I thought they weren't maybe as good as they were last week. They definitely made some mistakes, but they still were fine. To me, the biggest story out of this one is Henry Ruggs. 113 yards, including a deep shot. Henry Ruggs is looking like the guy we thought he would be when he got drafted.
Yeah, I mean, he had some big plays in this game. He was really good. I still want to see them do a little more like slant. Like he ran a lot of slants and drags in Alabama, and he could basically just catch it and make like 5 or 6 guys miss and just take off. I still want to see that a little bit more, but he's starting to figure out how to get open deep too, and he's done a really good job with that. And yeah, I mean, we said there's a lot of bad quarterback play in the first slate of games. Derek Carr was not one of those guys. He was great in this game. He was probably the best quarterback out of the early games. And he was really good in this game. Threw the ball around, hit some big plays. That throw to Foster Moreau for the touchdown while getting hit in the ankle was fantastic. The throw to Ruggs was obviously great. Just a good game overall for the Raiders and a nice win, which, they're 2-0 now.
Yeah, and he did it without really any running game. I mean, Peyton Barber was their leading rusher with 32 yards, and he had 13 carries. I mean, it's not like he just only got a couple of carries, and that's why he did. Like they were trying to get a running game going. They couldn't, and said, "Okay, screw it, we're going to throw it," and that worked out well. We got to talk about the other side for a second. Ben Roethlisberger might suck. I thought that the Steelers' game plan made zero. I didn't know what they were trying to do because the Raiders are running cover 2, and the Steelers just kept bombing it deep, play after play after play. I'm just a little confused about why they thought this would work and why. Again, the running game wasn't spectacular, so I kind of get it. But Ben Roethlisberger, who was Pro Football Focus's lowest graded player after Week 1, not a great performance here. He wasn't abysmal, but again, it was just kind of a weird offensive showcase for the Steelers, and also on the flip side, the Raiders defense might actually be good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders defense is solid. I also think that this feels like the same old Steelers too, right? Like This was a Steelers team that, despite starting undefeated last year, I think through 8 games, we were like, yeah, this doesn't feel like the best team in football. And we continue to watch this offense and say, yeah, this doesn't feel like a very good offense. They didn't play very well in this game. Like you were saying, they struggled a lot. I will say my take that Deontay Johnson's going to cement himself as the number 1 Steelers receivers looked really good through 2 weeks. But what exactly does that mean for this passing game that I say is mediocre at best? It just seems like there's no creativity to this team, which is, it feels like I'm hearing every other year or something that the Steelers have a new offensive coordinator and another offensive coordinator is, and it just seems like they're doing the same thing.
Yeah, and what's kind of frustrating as well is it's like I was looking at it. It's not like they have like cover 2 zone beaters, where I'm kind of just like what's coming, like cover 2, cover 3. Like that's kind of what the Raiders do, is they're playing a lot of, they're going to play zone basically every play. And I think that the other thing that could be a story, and this could really impact how we view the Raiders, as we kind of viewed them as like a fringe playoff team with a garbage defense. Well, if they can just have a mediocre defense, this could be a not even a fringe playoff team, but just a straight up playoff team. And this could be a why Paul Guenther leaving the Raiders might have been the biggest addition they had this offseason.
I mean, it really does, because like I said last week, it just seemed like that there was at least a plan. And it seemed like the guys understood the plan, because last year it just seemed like guys were running everywhere. And this was another game where it just seemed like everybody understood what the game plan was and what they had to do defensively. And there wasn't any major plays really happening in this game. And that was what killed them last year, was that they just got beat on bad defensive plays multiple times throughout the year. It doesn't seem like it's really happening for this team this year. We'll see if they can continue it, but it looks like the Raiders might have figured things out on that end.
Yeah, the Raiders get to play the Dolphins next week, which we'll get that in a second. Might be a good thing. The Chargers the week after, and actually their schedule is not that difficult to start the season. They have the Bears, the Broncos, the Eagles, the Giants to start their season after that. So it's like you got some teams that are like good, but those are all winnable games if you believe yourself to be a playoff team. So the Raiders, this could be a good thing for the Raiders. I was thinking about it because they always get off the hot starts and then kind of fall off. But last year they had such a tough start to their schedule. Their hot start only had them go like 3-3. Well, maybe a hot start for them could be like 6-1. That would be a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, if they're in that position, then they're probably making the playoffs. I do feel like 10. I think the AFC is really competitive. That's something else I've kind of noticed. I feel like I still feel like there's a number of teams, whether it's the Colts, Titans, whoever doesn't win the division there, maybe all 4 AFC West teams, the Bills, Patriots, Dolphins. You're looking at 3 teams in the AFC North too. This is a really competitive conference, and it's going to be really tough to win those playoff spots. It's going to be interesting to see who can really separate themselves, but getting the wins early like the Raiders have the opportunity to, that's a good thing for the Raiders. If they can do that, then they're going to put themselves in a position to be in the driver's seat.
Yeah, we also should mention TJ Watt did go down with a groin injury, and also Trey Turner got himself kicked out of the game. So those were also factors in it. Ready to move on to another game?
Yeah, we can move on.
All right, let's talk. How about the Titans Seahawks? This was a fun one because the Titans really they were desperate. They had to win this, come back from down 14 points in the fourth quarter to win it in overtime. A very fun game here, Kyle.
Yeah, and Derrick Henry kind of just stole the show. He was just like, basically everything that happened with this game, it's like the Titans are down, they're losing. It doesn't seem like they can really keep up with Seattle. And then Derrick Henry's like, don't worry, I got this. And then all of a sudden the Titans start storming back. He was incredible in this game, especially in the second half. He came alive, kind of dominated the game from there on out. And, towards the end of the game in that fourth quarter, for as bad as it was at times, the Titans stopped getting destroyed on coverage situations, which is not saying a lot because they were so bad in coverage for like the first 3 quarters of this game, but they stopped giving up big plays towards the end of it, and that really helped too. So give them credit for that. But this defense is still just horrible too. So I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about the Titans either. It turns out the AFC South might not be as good as we thought it could be, and that it's not like we thought it was going to be incredible. There was also that weird Julio Jones could have been a touchdown, was not ruled a touchdown thing. Julio still ended up with 128 yards on the day. So Julio, again, he is another one of those guys who was this is why I'm not willing to call Zach Wilson a bust yet, because we all overreacted like 7 guys week 1 who had great week 2s. Again, Tannehill did have 347 yards on 40 attempts, but how many of that is set up from Derrick Henry's 182 yards, 35 carries? The guy's not human. I mean, how is he still able? How have his legs not fallen off? I just don't understand it.
Yeah, and he struggled in the first half of this game. I thought the Seahawks were doing a really good job. The one thing I was thinking too, in that I was thinking in my head, so I'm going to give myself credit for it, even though I didn't say it out loud, so nobody can verify this. I was like, the Seahawks pass rush is just like a bunch of maniacs running as fast as they can to the quarterback. I was like, they have to find a way to get him involved in the passing game because those guys don't account for a screen at all. The first screen they run, he gets 15 yards off of it. And then they keep going back to him in the passing game too. I think he ended up with 6 catches, and his first one was towards the end of the first half. So I thought that really opened things up for them, using him in the passing game. Julio was terrific in the first half and leading the team. He also, did pretty well in the second half. And like you said earlier, this is why you get Julio Jones, because A.J. Brown wasn't good in this game. He was very bad. He had a couple drops that, were tough catches, but to A.J. Brown standards, I thought he should have made. And then Julio Jones just kind of carried the load, and him and Tannehill really worked out. All the freaking out about Tennessee last week in this offense without Arthur Smith, everything seems just fine now.
Yeah. How many second-round picks do you think you would rather have than Julio Jones right now? Maybe, I don't know, like 2 or 3 of them, maybe 0?
Yeah.
Probably 0,
honestly.
like a 0. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely looking good there. And also this last thing before we can move on, this is a crazy stat. I was just looking at it. Tennessee Titans running the ball 36 times with their halfback, 35 of them to Derrick Henry. I mean, he is their offense.
Yeah, I mean, he was just so good in this game. I can't get over it. He was just so
And he
good.
gets better as the game goes on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he just kept going, and, it just seems like it wears people down to try and tackle him constantly. And that's just when he takes advantage. His stamina must be like 150.
Yeah, no, it's remarkable. And he is part of why I say, hey, yes, running backs are pretty much overrated, but those elite guys are not overrated. Plus, I mean, analytics back that up, but no one wants to talk about that. So I have to say that there's other reasons. Let's move to another game. How about trying to figure out where we should go with it here? Let's stick with the division. Let's go Rams Colts. this was at the beginning, it kind of felt like, okay, here we go. Rams running away with it. The Colts, to their credit, fought back. They got a great, touchdown on a special teams blunder by the Rams, but the Rams immediately strike back, end up winning this one. What were your thoughts on Rams-Colts, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Rams kind of struggled at times. It wasn't a whole lot, but at the same time, I thought they struggled at times in this game. They ended up making things where Cooper Kupp was awesome in this game. But yeah, I mean, the Colts just kind of lingered a lot of this game and kind of stayed in it, and all of a sudden they had a position to win. It's just unfortunate because Carson Wentz gets hurt, and then all of a sudden Jacob Eason's in on the last drive as they're trying to come back and tie the game. And then it was over from there. He picked Jalen Ramsey.
He immediately throws an interception.
Yeah.
just like, where's someone who's not wearing my uniform I can throw the ball to?
Yeah. Michael Pittman, I thought, using these receivers, he was pretty good. He still has Carson Wentz still has the super frustrating plays. He threw a pick on a shovel pass that was basically blown up at the line of scrimmage, and he still tried to commit to it anyways.
Let's kill the shovel pass. Why are we still doing the shovel pass? This is ran its course. No more shovel passes.
Well, Kansas City still does it really well, and they do like that option.
Kansas City does everything well.
Yeah,
you don't try to be Kansas City.
I mean, yeah, I agree. So I do think it's a weird thing, and it was a weird thing. Like they were trying to get Jack Doyle to just like come across Aaron Donald, and that was going to work. I didn't understand it. Anyway, but and it's just like the same maddeningly frustrating Carson Wentz stuff where his offensive line wasn't very good today, but a lot of it is on Carson too, trying to like wait for the perfect throw. And I think a lot of it too, his injury, I thought, was also on him for not like just going down and taking a sack, trying to extend this play and trying to run away from Aaron Donald, and then his ankle gets rolled up on. And it's just like, you got to take an L every now and then, man. You can't make the superhero play every time. And it's just the same old Carson with some of this stuff. Now, he hasn't been bit by it this season as bad as he was last season, but sometimes I look at this and say, if he comes back from this ankle injury next week, it's going to bite him in the ass soon enough. It just feels that way.
Yeah, I had a thought with Wentz. I kind of thought with him and Jameis Winston, kind of some of the throws they had. Like Wentz had one where he's like going down and he tries to like sort of flip it over to a player. Like it just fell incomplete. But it's like, what are you doing? We keep saying, oh man, if you could just take this aspect out of your game, if you could just stop making these decisions. Have we ever seen a quarterback do that? Like, have we ever seen a quarterback be someone who's like constantly making dumb decisions and then stop doing that? Like, I can't think of a single example, even though it's something we always say.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think so. But we
even someone like a Peyton Manning who threw a lot of interceptions, it wasn't like he was like throwing the interceptions while he's falling down. It was just that like, he was making bad reads and stuff. Not like he wasn't like a daredevil.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. I mean, I guess it's hard to look at what the Colts are right now because it's like you could feel good about, hey, you maybe played two of the best 8 teams in football right now, and you looked solid at points in both of those games, but you also lost both of those games and you're now 0-2. So it's interesting to see how, I don't know how to look at the Colts right now. We'll see what happens. I mean, even though we just grilled Carson in this one, I mean, they still need him to play. We saw what Jacob Eason when he came in. They need him as a quarterback, and if he's able to come back, then maybe that could be a big thing for them.
Yeah, no, and allow me to be a little bit clear. Like, I don't think Carson was horrible today. In fact, I thought that like his running ability, I was surprised he only had 37 yards. I felt like he did more. I think he was more of a timely runner, in his 5 carries. That was a big aspect of this game. And we also should mention, like, the Colts in the first quarter, I believe it was the first quarter, one of them might have been in the second quarter. They had multiple drives where they got inside the Rams' 5-yard line and came away with no points. I mean, if that doesn't happen, this is a very different game. They played a team that many people feel is a championship contender very tough, but you would have liked, and they weren't able to come back partially because their starting quarterback got injured. So we say all of this stuff, but they did kind of look like the team that we thought they would be, which we didn't really see in week 1. I guess the real issue I still have with this team is like, they don't have a red zone threat. Like the receiving course is still not great. And like you see Tampa Bay, part of why they're so successful is how well they do inside the 10-yard line. Just the Colts, this at least in this game, it didn't work out very well.
I agree, because it seems like their option, at least for the first 2 weeks, has been Pascal. is that been basically their red zone guy. And I mean, that's not an ideal number one red zone target, I guess I
Mm-hmm.
would say. That's my analysis on that one.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, so it's an interesting situation. I mean, I still think they can be a pretty solid team, but yeah, I mean, we knew that the weapons on this team weren't up to par, and that's why it was kind of interesting why this team had some money to spend in free agency. They had some opportunities with trade, but this is just not what this team does and this organization does. It feels like they still need a guy.
Yeah, I think I agree. Let's move on now. Let's talk about one. Got this recommended in the chat, and usually I don't listen to the chat because they can be annoying. But I think it's a good suggestion, so I'm going to go with it. Saints Panthers. Uh, I'll start this one off because my first reaction is what the hell is going on in this game. I think I'll say some things like there's certain aspects of the Panthers that I'm just sold on. I think this is good. I think their defensive line and their front seven, I'm sold on. I think their run defense is going to be great. I think that their receiving core and their offensive play calling, I'm sold on. Couple of things I still want to see is I want to see their secondary when they're going up against a team that best receiver isn't Lil Jordan Humphrey or
Corey Davis.
Corey Davis. Yeah, I was trying to say Chris Davis. No, that's the Orioles first baseman. That's what I want to see. And I thought Sam Darnold was fine again, which is way better than he has been. Like if Sam Darnold is fine, that's great for the Panthers. They've won that trade, but I didn't think Sam Darnold was like incredible. I mean, he had an interception and he had another couple of plays that could have been interceptions. To me, I think Christian McCaffrey is very good, and I thought that this offense is very good, very well schemed up, and Darnold did what he was asked to do, which is good. Like that'll put you. You can be a tier 3 quarterback just doing what you're asked to do. But again, I didn't think he was like incredible in this one.
No, and the Saints are missing a bunch of guys too, so that also hurt too. I mean, it was kind of a weird game. The Saints. I mean, everybody talking about. I hope everybody who had their Jameis Winston MVP odds after last week didn't actually put any money down on that because that's pretty much over. He was bad in this game. I mean, it was just a weird game. I felt like the Saints just felt like discombobulated, and a lot of that should go to the Panthers' defensive line, which, like you said, was tremendous in this game. I thought J.C. Horn as a rookie was really good on the outside too. That being said, it's the Saints receiving core, so there's a lot that goes into that. But yeah, I mean, the Saints just kind of looked discombobulated to me, and the Panthers looked like the better team and kind of punched them in the mouth. And then the Saints didn't really have a response after getting punched.
Yeah, I didn't see like a ton from J.C. Horn. He might have been better. I don't know. Again, it's hard to tell without the all 22. The main thing I saw was Jameis Winston threw 2 passes directly at him and he caught one of them. Like that's the main thing I saw out of J.C. Horn's game. But so again, that's just why I want to see more information. But I mean, yeah, probably the biggest takeaway I have if you're a Panthers fan is Alvin Kamara 8 carries for 5 yards. I mean, they had to abandon the running game. I mean, the Saints barely ran any plays in this one. It was kind of a weird game, like you said. But yeah, that's to me that's the best part about the Panthers. And again, like I thought Darnold looked solid. I figured this would be a real test for him, and guys were wide open. So I don't know what happened, but again, I don't know if it's the play calling, I don't know if it's the receivers or what. But guys were just easily open, whereas last game no one was open for the Packers, who have a better offense. At least they did last year.
The clear solution to this game was the Saints were just really intimidated by the virtual panther jumping up and ripping the flag off the scoreboard and then eating that in front of them. So thankfully nobody was hurt in that situation. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. It seemed like just a really weird situation. And they hit a couple big plays, and it just felt kind of over from there. The Saints didn't really have a response. Their offense was lackluster. Jameis had the first pick for Jameis. I mean,
Jameis.
He's trying to throw a 45-yard pass on a dime over 3 defenders while falling backwards. Like, how many guys are like falling and thinking, "Yeah, I could do this"?
It's incredible. And again, that's kind of goes back to my Carson Wentz point. Like, who actually gets that? Doesn't do that. And they actually, the Saints Jameis Winston also had like a near fumble in this one, ended up getting ruled incomplete, could have been ruled a fumble. And the Saints actually did kind of get back into this game at one point. But yeah, Winston just, the turnovers took over. And again, this is what I feel like you and I perfectly nailed this last week when we were kind of like, okay, Winston had a very good week. but also it's not like the issue of Jameis Winston has ever been he's incapable of having a high ceiling. And I think that that's kind of what we saw 2 weeks in, and the Saints fans have had the full Jameis experience already.
Yeah, I mean, they really have. And yeah, I mean, I just don't think there's going to be a lot of situations where basically Kamara gets 14 touches, or he had 8 targets and 6 carries, or 8 carries and like 6 catches. There's just not a situations where he's going to get 14 touches and they win. I mean, that's just a simple thing. And then we do have to get credit here because Matt knows nothing. You know, he knows this in the chat. The Panthers are a surprise 2-0 team to start the season. Is this team legit? I mean, it does seem like their receivers are legit. Having Christian McCaffrey is a cheat code. And are the skill guys and this defensive line and, you know, what this secondary has performed well early in this season, are these guys enough to make this team interesting and put it in the playoff conversation with the NFC West foes, with the, I mean, that's probably it at this point, honestly. It's them or the Saints. Are they good enough to put themselves in that situation?
Yeah, it's very fascinating. I think that maybe, which is kind of a unfortunate answer. And the tough part is, again, they don't really get a good real test for a minute. I mean, they play the Texans next week, who I guess aren't, or that's actually the Thursday night game, which is interesting. I mean, I think the Cowboys game will be a real interesting test, but I mean, this team is probably going to be 3-0 after 3 weeks, which, you know, that's promising and for sure. So they're definitely, I'm keeping my eye on them a lot more than I had going into the season when I wasn't very high on them. But yeah, I think, again, Christian McCaffrey had one of the better games you'll see from a halfback who only had 3 yards per carry just because of what he does to the defense. And this is another thing where the Saints can't play 2 safeties deep. So sure, he didn't necessarily get a ton of yards through the ground game, but the Saints had to respect him, and that helped open things up through the passing game. So you got to factor that in as well. McCaffrey's, I mean, he is that tier 1 running back that completely changes how you have to game plan against them.
13 yards per reception also helps too. So.
Yeah, that also factors in. Yeah. All right. Shall we move on?
Yeah, we can move on from that one.
Okay. Let's talk. Let's go Niners, Eagles. Are the Eagles? What do we make of the Eagles at this point? It's very, you know, they're a team that I think we all thought was going to be contending for the first overall pick. They end up going on and actually playing pretty well. I thought Jalen Hurts was good in this one. His stat line isn't crazy of 190 yards, but he only threw the ball 23 times, excuse me. So that's good efficiency. He also had 82 yards rushing, which definitely helps. So the efficiency was good. If you factor in his carries and his passing, that's actually a pretty good game. He had and that's also factoring in the fact that he had a big touchdown to Jalen Reagor that got called back because Reagor stepped out of bounds. So there was a lot of stuff to like with Jalen Hurts. I thought that the 49ers were fine. I don't know. Kyle, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, I mean, we thought that at the beginning. This team is not going to be competing for the number 1 pick. It's going to be better than that. Right. I don't know if it's going to win the division, but this team definitely, just eye test wise, does not feel like it's a serious tier below the Balls, the Cowboys. I don't even know if the Giants are on. They might be better than the Giants at this point now, looking at them. I know the Giants played pretty well in that Thursday night game that we'll talk about, but it just feels like that they're kind of still in that tier. And, you know, I think a lot of the stuff it seems like that we thought might be the case with this team are kind of overblown because, like we said in the last one, this defensive line still can be pretty nasty at times. You know, the offensive line, when healthy, is still solid. This wasn't their best performance, but at the same time, I still feel like they're playing a Super Bowl contender and keeping it within a touchdown game. I feel like that's a big win based on, you know, where this team's expectations were.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth mentioning. Like, I think they look way better than I thought they would. I had them as a 3.3 win team. So, like, yeah, okay, that's not a high bar to clear. But I mean, I think this front seven. I mean, Eli Mitchell, the leading rusher for San Francisco, 17 carries, only 42 yards. That's 2.5 yards per carry. I mean, stuff like that. If you can shut down a Kyle Shanahan run scheme, you're going to have success. And while, you know, I've talked about, I think pass rush is overrated, I think run defense is probably properly rated, if not a bit underrated. So the fact that they can stop the run well and basically put you in a position where you have to throw the ball. And Garoppolo, he got the job done. I mean, they won the game. We're talking about the Eagles like they won. Like the 49ers won the game. And Garoppolo, without a running game, numbers weren't pretty, but he got the job done. But this was definitely a good performance from the Eagles, even though they lost.
Yeah. I mean, I think you feel pretty good about this if you're an Eagles fan. I still think you feel pretty good about this team. You want to see a little more of the weapons get involved in the receiving game, but overall, I thought it was a fine performance. And 1-1 at this point of the season, I think you feel good about that. I think this team feels above, the potential number one pick teams, and I still feel like it's kind of above the Giants right now. So I think it's going to be interesting to see them develop and see how this Hurts thing keeps developing. On the flip side, I guess we're really going to go see if, the 49ers can pull a running back off the street and he'll get a 100-yard game because they have nobody else left. There's really nobody else who can get on the field right now. So they're going to be finding a running back in that situation. That being said, even though it was only 17 points, it was smart how they moved the football. Deebo Samuel looks like a real number one option. I mean, there's good things to like about this 49ers team again.
Yeah, and next week, the 49ers play the Packers Sunday Night Football, so that should be fun. And, hey, Nick Bosa, a couple of sacks as well. So we can talk a lot about how, and again, the numbers are like, I said in my video, and some 49ers fans got mad at me, that I think you can make the argument the Eagles outplayed the 49ers in this game. They just didn't get those, the Philly special on fourth down didn't work out, right? If that does, this is a different football game. Jalen Hurts was barely out of bounds. If he's inbounds, it's a different football game. The Eagles did have 6 yards per play. The Niners just 4.5 yards per play. That's a big disparity. But at the same, I guess the question is this a worrisome performance for 49ers despite a win?
I'm not worried about it just yet. Now, the interesting thing is to me is that this team is hurt as it is right now because this is an issue that they had last year. And I heard this on a podcast. I can't remember, so I can't give it his credit. I'm sorry. During the week.
How dare you?
Is it just a problem that the 49ers scout injury-riddled guys? Like, is that just is that more of the problem than their guys keep getting hurt? It just seems like they're always dealing with injury issues. I just feel like that's a major issue with this team right now, and I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. First off, real quick, super chat. Do you think Denver should switch it up? Go with Locke next week. He is still the franchise quarterback after all. No. But appreciate the super chat. I'd be shocked if they did. But yeah, back to I think you're right. I think the injuries, and I think that's a good point. Like, listen, they got lucky Jason Verrett was healthy last year. It's not that they're unlucky that he's hurt this year, right? I mean, the guy's been, and you feel bad for him, like he's been snake bitten his whole career. But yeah, I mean, there definitely is something to that. I mean, they signed Quan Alexander, who had injury history. So, like, that's absolutely a factor for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I still think, you got the win at the end of the day. Some of the things you tweak, hopefully you get a running back healthy. I thought the defense still played pretty well in this game. Despite, I thought Philly had some sustained drives. But yeah, I mean, I thought the defense overall, I would say, is a win. And I still think this is a really good football team.
Yeah, I think I agree. Again, part of it might depend on what are your expectations. I think some people they look so good for 58 minutes last week, not quite as good this week, but still, again, a win is a win. Let's go Cowboys Chargers here. This was a fun game. I had the Chargers winning. Listen, I know Mike McCarthy had that just horrific blunder at the end of the game that that was just insane. That cannot happen. The fact that I forgot to call a timeout or what, or I don't even know what they were doing there. I don't know how that mistake happens. It worked out. They got the win. And I thought that, again, it's an obvious thing to do, but like I always say, it's like, we've seen a lot of offensive coordinators or offensive-minded coaches not do the obvious thing. They ran the ball effectively, which you can do against this Brandon Staley defense, where they played two safeties high most of the game, as in deep, not like on something, in case you were confused. And yeah, I thought that, Mike McCarthy, they had the right game plan. So I'll give the guy at the top the credit, Mike McCarthy. And I think it's also fair to say, like, their running back one was a huge reason they won this game, Tony Pollard.
Yeah. Tony Pollard. What did
Mhm.
I say in the pregame the Wednesday show that if Elliott gets 18 or less carries, they win this game?
Mhm.
He ended up with 18 touches total.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
including, carries and receptions. He actually wasn't terrible in this game. Tony Pollard was just better. So you
Mhm.
give Tony Pollard the credit for that. I don't know. I felt like sometimes I was looking at this like, could I be less impressed with these teams after their week 2 performances based on, just some of the stuff? I guess you can look at this and say on the other side, Cowboys linebackers look pretty good. You're basically in an emergency situation with Michael Parsons on defensive end, and he
Mhm.
more than held his own in that spot. Trayvon Diggs again gets another turnover, looks like a legit guy at that spot.
Mhm.
So there are things you like in the defense, and then the offense, it wasn't as good as the Tampa Bay game, but they still made the plays when they had to and went down and got the field goal.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the turnovers are a thing. Herbert had a couple. Herbert was great outside of 2 passes. I think Herbert looks like he's a star. He just needs to, he had a bad interception week 1 as well. So again, cut those out
Another
of his
red
game,
zone
which
turnover too.
yeah. So again, Herbert is awesome. Like we all know, Herbert is awesome. You do want to clean that up, but I suspect that'll just clean itself up over time. And that's definitely very promising. And yeah, and I think that this is part of it too. And it might kind of suck for Herbert. Is his numbers might get hurt just playing for a Brandon Staley defense. That the Brandon Staley defense isn't. They don't hide anything. They basically just say like, we think that a good passing game is the way you win in today's NFL. So we're going to make that really difficult. And if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us through the ground. And the Dallas Cowboys beat them through the ground, which was again, it was the right call for them. And Prescott, like again, he didn't have a ton of work to do. He did have a bad interception, but I think that was one of those interceptions where he overthrew someone in zone coverage. It looks like he overthrew him by a mile, but it actually wasn't that bad. But still an overthrow. Other than that, though, he did play well, although didn't get to throw it 60 times and bulk up his stats like he has in the past.
Yeah, it's going to really hurt his MVP chances now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And also, I mean, Justin Herbert, it's the weirdest thing of Herbert. He's better under pressure than he is when he's not pressured. I don't understand this guy.
He made some unreal throws in this game, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Like there are some throws he makes, and it's like, there are 5 guys in the league who could probably make that throw, and he's one of those 5. But yeah, I mean, he's if the Chargers clean up their red zone stuff, I probably feel a lot better about this team, and they're probably 2-0 right now. So they got to fix that going forward. But that was obviously something that hurt.
Yeah, I feel like we're not spending a lot of time on this, but I don't know. I don't have too much else to add other than that. I think the main takeaways were Herbert is good and good on the Cowboys for running the ball, and Mike McCarthy, hey, call a timeout, you dumb idiot. Do you have anything else?
No, I mean, I think the last thing too is I'll talk about is we'll see what happens with this Cowboys defense as it continues. It'll get
Mm-hmm.
healthy. We'll see these guys on the field. If this linebacking group with Parsons back at linebacker can continue to look like this, I don't think it's going to be a good defense by the end of the season, but is it competitive enough to where, this offense can still carry it and the defense isn't going to, destroy it?
Yeah, I mean the Monday Night Football next week, Eagles Cowboys. That's one that we all rolled our eyes out at when we saw the schedule. I'm looking forward to that. I think that should be a fun game.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be really good. I'm interested to see how they handle Jalen Hurts and his legs too. So it'll be a fun game, no doubt.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this one. As someone who locked up the Bengals winning, this was not a fun game. Bengals fall short to the Chicago Bears. There, outside of a 3-play stretch, things went very well for the Cincinnati Bengals. To me, the play of the game, elite fumble recovery quarterback Justin Fields. That was incredible. The fumbles there. He like fights over a guy, tips it, gets it. Justin Fields, elite fumble recoverer.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a nice job to go back and get it after the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing was for the Bengals, it just felt like, the mistakes they made on the offensive side, and then the guy who goes and he drops the ball trying to scoop and score, that basically killed them, right? Like they would have had the ball in
I
Chicago
thought Fields touched
territory.
it. It was hard to tell. It was right near. Fields
It
might
was,
have got a
yeah,
finger on it.
it was tough to tell, but yeah, it was really close. I thought he still should have been able to get down and recover that and just get the ball. But yeah, it was like I didn't actually watch the last, the 2 scoring drives at the end for the Bengals that made it like competitive, because it was like I saw like the 3 straight plays that were 3 straight interceptions, And then I was just like, all right, well, that's probably it.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it was like a 3-point game that the Bengals battled back for. But yeah, I mean, the Bengals made a lot of mistakes in this game, and it wasn't just Joe Burrow. T. Higgins had the disastrous fumble too that they lost, and that was
Mm-hmm.
another big play because he was going into Chicago territory too, and he had a lot of room to run on that one. He just kind of lost the ball, and it was a mistake. And yeah, so it's like Bears didn't make that many mistakes, where the Bengals made more mistakes, and you know, Fields came in the game and he looked all right. That's kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah. Here, let's try to take it one thing at a time. Let's start with the Bengals, and then we'll go over to the Bears. Fire Zach Taylor. I think that it just has to be. I mean, there was a point when, I think it was like in the fourth quarter where they had as many rushing plays as passing plays against a team that everyone in the world knows is a really good, front seven, and they struggle in the secondary. And in fairness, their secondary had looked good up until that point, but it's still like, okay, you've thrown the ball like 14 times. Like, let's maybe start taking some chances. I have a conspiracy theory. I think Joe Burrow purposely threw 3 straight picks so that way Zach Taylor would finally open up the offense and he could start throwing the ball.
Well, I'm sure the pick 6 wasn't what he wanted. That was pretty bold.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was a I don't know. Like, I don't think he's a very good coach, and I've kind of felt that way. But they're not going to fire him at 500. This is their best start in forever.
That's true. Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a bad situation, but at the same time, I do think that the best case for the Bengals is they probably replace him. I agree.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just an asinine game plan. I just don't know what they were thinking. And Joe Mixon's a good running back. He had 3.5 yards per carry. I guess it's not his fault. This isn't how you attack. You attack the opposing team's weakness. That's what you should do there. And again, for Burrow, once they finally, after those 3 picks, he started pushing the ball down the field, and it's like, oh yeah, like you can make this stuff happen. So they were able to actually do well sort of down the stretch. Let's transition a little bit to Justin Fields. The numbers, not very good. 6 for 13, 60 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. I think that's bad. There were some things I liked from Justin Fields, though. There really were. I thought that I liked the fact that he noticed the blitz coming. That's something that he struggled with a lot. So I want to see you improve. He improved in that. The interception was horrible, especially when you factor in the situation, but it was also just a good disguise, and he just never saw the linebacker who looked like he was blitzing drop back into coverage. It's kind of like, okay, you're a rookie quarterback who wasn't expecting to play today. That's a mistake I kind of expect you to make. Again, the fumble, another one, but it's like, I know Justin Fields is going to do that. It's the same thing like when Carson Wentz does something. It's like, I know he's going to do that. But I thought that there was some other stuff that I did see him improve upon, which is why I kind of liked what I saw from him, even if it wasn't a great performance. I think it might have been a good, I feel better about him today than I did a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was fine. And, a lot of this is in perspective of it's his first NFL action. We continue to say this. If Lamar Jackson had this game, it's a bad game for Lamar Jackson.
Right.
For Fields' first time out there on an NFL field, I thought he was fine. I thought he made some good plays, and there's some explosiveness to him. I really, up until Dalton got hurt, I think I tweeted this. I don't understand when they bring Fields in when Dalton is, playing. Because it's not like they're doing, any gadget stuff using his legs or anything. He's literally just running the same plays that Dalton would run, other than Justin Fields is back there. I didn't understand it at all. I thought he settled into this game a little bit, and I'm interested to see him starting as a quarterback because I think he's going to be able to make some plays. I'm interested to see this going forward. But, yeah, I mean, I think you take away from this game is that the same thing I said about Wilson in Week 1. It wasn't a great performance, but at the same time, you saw things that you were pretty excited about. There's some explosive plays near. There's some reasons to get you excited going forward.
Yeah, I mean, he had about a 30-yard touchdown that was just dropped by Allen Robinson, so that would have made his numbers look better. So that's unfortunate. I thought the throw was a little bit behind, but it still should have been caught. It was still a good throw. And then he had that on a 3rd down and 9, I believe it was. He rushed and got the first down, and that iced the game. And if he doesn't get that, they might lose the game. So again, there's the little nuggets there. And plus he came into the game cold. He wasn't expected to start. It's really not everyone's going to be Justin Herbert, and it's just going to immediately be great the second they see the football field. I'm interested in seeing how to play the Browns, who are a better, team, but their defense has been kind of shaky through 2 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. Also, not a big fan of the last name Fields. I think, Fields now takes the field at Soldier Field. It's too much field.
I'll get him to change it. He can. What is Janoris Jenkins' name now? Jackrabbit Jenkins.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We'll just call him Justin Jackrabbit or something. Oh,
yeah. Man. Take after Chad Ochocinco, Justin Uno, I guess.
That's a name.
That's a name. Hey, it's no bad ideas in brainstorming. Let's move on. Maybe some bad ideas in brainstorming. Let's talk Bills Dolphins.
Do we have to?
Yes, we have to. We have to do this. Again, this is why we don't overreact to week 1. So this is weird, right? Because obviously the Dolphins played horrible. The Bills did play well. The weirdness of it is it ends up going 1 for 4 because he leaves with an injury. And that just kind of makes it look weird. Long term, I don't know how big of a deal this is. Jacoby Brissett certainly didn't have a good week 1, but a lot of it was the Bills defense played well, I thought. It's not like he was missing open guys. He did have a horrible interception, though. But again, if Tua stays in the game, does it end up better? It's hard for it to end up worse. But as a whole, I do think that these two teams kind of feel like they're the teams that I thought they would be heading into this season.
Yeah, I mean, should we start from the Dolphin side? I mean,
sure. Let's start with let's go with the bad, and then we'll get to the good with the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing was this team was a team. It seemed like when they were talking, and a lot of their fans felt like this team is going to go and make a run at the Bills for the division this year, and that's the next step for this team. Well, in their last 2 games with the Bills, they have been outscored, 91-26, I think it is. And they're, and in their 2 games this regular season, they've been sacked 8 times. I mean, that's not a recipe for success. This, you can get away with a below average offensive line. The Seahawks have done it for years and been a decent team. You can't have the worst offensive line in the league. And this just feels like the worst offensive line in the league right now. There's no other way around it. It really struggled again in this game. Bills had 6 sacks. Some of that you probably put on the quarterback too, but at the same time, there's just no reason you should be giving up 6 sacks. It felt over as soon as Tua went down, and even before then, it just kind of felt over. I don't know if this is a bad matchup against the Bills, but it certainly isn't a good matchup right now.
Yeah, I thought that, Miami really struggled all across the board offensively. Their offensive line struggled. They weren't getting guys open, and Jacoby Brissett struggled as well. 3.1 yards per play. I mean, that's rough to look at. And even the Bills, defense or Bills offense themselves wasn't spectacular. 4.9 yards per play. So the Dolphins defense looked solid, and they got 2 turnovers. Again, they seemingly could, Miami turnover magic is a real thing. But even with that, they weren't able to get something done. They turned the ball over themselves 3 times. So everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong, including losing your starting quarterback. So this was a mess for pour one out for Luke Brown. A very, very tough week 2 loss for the Dolphins.
Yeah. Hey, Bills, what was it? 21 carries for your running backs in this one? How about that? That's got to be like a record over the last 2 years.
Sure. I mean, and Devin Singletary, he had that big run. And Josh Allen, again, his stat line was weird, right? 179 yards on 33 attempts, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But that touchdown to Diggs was just so like oh, come on. Like, no, he scrambles out. There's like 7 seconds, no one's open, and then he throws off screen to way across the field to an open Diggs. It's like, get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel better about the Bills defense. The Bills offense, I mean, they've played good defenses in the first 2 weeks, but they've also looked kind of lackluster. We'll see how this group kind of, gets things going. I think they're going to be fine. And, obviously they were the much better team in this one, so there wasn't too much to worry about.
Yeah, and again, all those Dolphins fans who were, in the comments, oh, you moron, you said this team was only going to win 6 games, you idiot. Well, I feel a little better now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll continue to say this until I'm blue in the face. I mean, the Patriots made plenty of mistakes, and that's why they lost the game. The Patriots against the Dolphins on a down for down basis, were the better team against the Dolphins. They made a ton of mistakes and they deserve to lose because of those mistakes. But, this is a team that hasn't looked very inspiring through 2 weeks, I think, overall. And getting shut out against your division rival, I think is a problem.
Yes, I think Luke Brown said I stand corrected. You were great, Luke Brown. You respectfully disagree. You are the best kind of fan that disagrees with me. The only people that annoy me are the mean people. Let's move on. Let's talk. How about the Thursday night game? How about those balls? This was a fun game. Weirdly, it seemed like everyone's takeaway was that Daniel Jones played well. I thought he played fine. I wasn't like blown away or anything by this. We all know he's elite dual threat Daniel Jones. I feel like I've said this take before. I do feel this way. It's like, why not just let Daniel Jones at least have his running game be more a part of the offense? Run some design runs with him, similar to like the Eagles with Jalen Hurts. Like he can move. Like use this as a way to open things up for your offense.
Yeah, I feel like you should be in an RPO offense almost all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, or even a read option offense kind of thing. I just don't get it. And maybe it's because he's the slowest looking fast guy I've ever seen in my life. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, I completely agree. They should use his legs a lot more because it's his best attribute. I thought he was fine in this game, but the Giants just made way too many mistakes and, criticizing the offside at the end of the game. It was close. And I guess they said that their film said it wasn't offside. I haven't gone back and looked at it, but, it was close, but it's
then okay. I mean, if it wasn't offsides, then you would have won because the other player screwed up with a missed field goal. So like either way, like you got unlucky and not getting lucky, basically.
Yeah, and then it's just like, so I was going through it because I have a Giants fan, who's my friend, and it's just like, it was like they had in the first half they had a timeout followed by a false start followed by a sack that led to a punt in the first half. They had a holding call, a drop. The 2 straight runs up the middle after the pick, neutral zone flag. It's just like a timeout followed by too many men right after the timeout, and then the offsides on the field goal. It's just like you can't make and the Darius Slayton drop obviously was the big one.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't make that many mistakes and win. But yeah, I mean, I thought Jones was pretty good in this one. Troy Aikman was hyping him up as like the next greatest thing ever, but he made some good throws in this one. Obviously, his stats look a lot better if Slayton makes that catch in the end zone. Was it Slayton or Shepard? I feel like I had
it was Slayton.
Wrong. It was Slayton. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I thought he was pretty good in this game. The one takeaway I had from this is Taylor Heinicke is the best terrible quarterback I've ever seen in my life. Like
he's Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, they lost Ryan Fitzpatrick and gained Ryan Fitzpatrick.
The younger Fitzpatrick. Like he had so many, like he'll just have like 4 or 5 like bad throws. And then he'll hit that touchdown at the end of the game. That's like on a laser, on a back shoulder throw. And it's like, how do you do that after making so many bad throws down the field? Just a weird game overall. It was really weird. I thought the Giants, it was kind of similar. The Giants were better, but they just made too many mistakes that hurt them. And Terry McLaurin really carries this offense.
Yeah, we should mention with Heinicke, he had like the worst interception in NFL history with like that, like you're up, what was it, up 2 points or 1 point in their own territory, trying to run out the clock, throws a pick to James Bradbury. It's like, that's like the one thing you cannot do there is throw an interception. And again, it was a good play from Bradbury, but then of course he drives down the field and gets the touchdown. He's fun. I do think Fitzpatrick, I made the joke of him being Fitzpatrick. I think that Fitzpatrick is a better version of that guy, but I also think that, it's fun to watch Taylor Heinicke do his thing. Unfortunate it comes at the expense of Fitzpatrick. And also, how about Tress Way? 4 punts, 50 yards a punt, 200 total punt yards. Tress Way doing well.
That was good. Speaking about Alec Ovon here with Speak About Washington's bad defense, I will say, I still think there's good parts of this defense. I still think, the defensive line actually got stifled by the Giants' offensive line more than I thought. And I still think the secondary is solid. From what I remember and what I saw, it doesn't seem like the linebackers can really cover much of anybody. And I just wonder if that's going to be an issue with this team, is that if they can't cover over in the middle of the field, is that just going to like crater this entire defense? And that's something that I noticed with this team in this one.
Oh, so it's interesting. You're saying maybe you need coverage to go with your elite pass rush. Maybe that's an important aspect of football.
Yeah, I mean, and I actually think they have some decent guys at the back. It's just like
Hmm.
it just seemed like that anything over the middle, the Giants were able to get. And I don't know if it's all on the linebackers, but it just seemed like the linebackers were leaving guys wide open there.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, like William Jackson, who's a good corner, hasn't really looked to me. I haven't really studied it, but he hasn't looked spectacular. I did think that, like, again, for the Giants, like, one nice thing was, like, Andrew Thomas is, he had a really good week one. Week two, he was kind of fine, but for someone who had a really bad rookie season and a really bad preseason, nice to see him kind of look solid there. So they got that going for them. But yeah, as a whole, it's just, I've definitely been very disappointed with the Washington football team defense so far through 2021, and hopefully they can turn it around.
Yeah, and then we talked about a bad, it was kind of average from the pass rush. They still got 3 sacks, so
Mhm.
if that's an average pass rush performance, I can't imagine what a good one is.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also Daniel Jones on the other side. The guy runs into 2 sacks a game, so.
Yeah, that's true. So fair
Mhm.
enough.
All right, let's move on. 2 games left. So we got the Texans, Browns, and also the Broncos, Jaguars. Where do you want to go here?
This Texans Brown game was pretty interesting. It was like, so the first half, all of a sudden, this is real tight. I mean, let's just put it this way: Tyrod Taylor has to be the most unlucky player in the history of the
Uh,
NFL, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, well, most unlucky. I mean, I guess you could say like Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl, but like, it's really unfortunate that this keeps happening to poor Tyrod Taylor.
I mean, he was good in this game again, and he was good in week one. And then all of a sudden, he has this hamstring injury, and now they got to play on a short week, right? So he's probably not going to play in week three. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems like it keeps happening to him. It's unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I thought he was pretty good in this game. He had 11.4 yards per attempt, 10, 11, 125 yards and a touchdown in the first half. And just like that, the Texans were right in it, 14-14 at halftime. The Browns were a better team, so you just kind of felt like that they were gonna, you know, impose their will, and eventually Chubb kind of did his thing. But Texans were in this game for a lot of it.
Yeah, I think a big part of it was, I mean, there was that fumble, and then immediately after, not immediately after, but a little bit after, Baker Mayfield throws a pick. He hurt himself, but seems to be fine, so that's good because that was definitely a scare at the time when that happened. So like those 2 turnovers kind of really helped Houston get those 14 points and go up 14-7. From that point on, it really was all Cleveland. There was all of a sudden I was going on Twitter and I saw a bunch of tweets like, "Oh wow, Texans might actually be good. The Texans better than average." So I kind of tweeted out like sort of as a joke, hot take. I still don't think the Texans are good. Like I think that yeah, maybe they're not worst team in football, 0-17 like we thought they would be heading into the season. But I also think like their offense has actually looked solid. They do have some guys who can receive, and Tyrod Taylor isn't a horrible quarterback. We'll talk about Davis Mills in a second, maybe. I mean, he looked like a rookie, but yeah, the Texans aren't they aren't horrible. It's fair to say. I still don't think they're a good team. Like I still think there's a very real chance this team ends up picking first in the 2022 NFL draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely better than everybody thought. And there still is a chance they go for the first pick, but they haven't looked like the worst team in the NFL through the first 2 weeks. So I guess you take that with what you will. Davis Mills looked uninspiring. I mean, this was a tough situation coming in cold. But, he struggled as a rookie. And then, I mean, I guess on the other side, what do you make of this Browns team? Like, obviously the Baker injury was a little weird. He came back, though. Are you still feeling good about the Browns? Now they're down 2 receivers. How do you feel about this team overall?
Yeah, I still feel good about them. This is nothing really concerned me too much with this. I thought, like, other than then Baker's got to cut out those interceptions. That wasn't a good interception, and also, okay, maybe let someone else make the tackle. Do the Phillip Rivers of falling down right before you make the tackle. I think Matt Ryan's also a good one at perfecting the pretending like you're trying to make a tackle while not having no intention of making a tackle. There, it's like you're playing Houston, like you'll be all right. But yeah, I think I feel fine. Like I think again, they had some bad. I don't want to say bad. There needs to be a term for it, right? Because it's not luck. Like you threw an interception and you fumbled the football. That's not luck. Like that's you not doing well. But kind of these fluky plays to end up having big impacts. They had a couple of those go against them. And other than that, I thought that they played, they played about as well as I expected. Like they still beat an NFL team by 10 points. Like that's not super. Like it's just because they were 12-point favorites or whatever that we kind of feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And Baker only threw 2 incompletions in this game too, which is pretty funny for looking uninspiring. He was 19 to 21
for 213 yards, over 10 yards per attempt.
Yeah. So it was I mean, I agree. So it'll be interesting to see this Browns team going forward. Maybe the Texans can keep some of this momentum going.
Yeah. All right. Final game here. Probably not, but we'll hope so. Let's talk about Broncos, Jaguars. Looked like the Jaguars had a chance early on. There was a quick touchdown for Trevor Lawrence. He did basically nothing after that. I mean, he had that one quick touchdown. And, it's weird to me that Zach Wilson's getting all this criticism and Trevor Lawrence isn't. I think I have a theory, Kyle. I think my theory is nobody watched this game. I think I watched this game. I was the one person. No one else has watched 1 second of this game other than what was shown on Red Zone.
I don't think a lot of people did either. I had a little bit of eyes on it at one point because I basically had my 4-game cast up. And then at halftime, I recalibrated all of my games to get the closest games and also the Patriots on. And I put this one on for a little bit, and I'm just like, nothing's really happening here. I guess I can kind of just move on. And then Lawrence threw some interceptions later in the game that I had on my Red Zone feed that was off to my side, and I saw that a little bit. And then after that, I was like, well, I guess it's over then. And that was just basically the Broncos winning this one. It didn't seem like an overall like awesome performance at the Broncos, but they still threw the ball really well, which it's the same thing that we said about Tyrod Taylor last week. Teddy Bridgewater knows how to attack a bad secondary, and this Jaguars secondary is bad. They attacked the bad secondary, they made some plays, and they got after Lawrence, and that's exactly what they had to do.
Yeah, I like this comment. One-legged pigeon says, "I did not know this game existed." So yeah, that's good. So what happened was the Trevor Lawrence had a very impressive quick touchdown. The offense did not score a point after that. The 6 points added on, that was from a kick return touchdown. Yeah. Trevor Lawrence he looked like how I kind of expected him to look. I mean, 13 for 33, 118 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. That's almost as bad as Zach Wilson's stat line. They're similar. And Wilson, and again, I want to be clear, I feel the same way about Lawrence as I do about Wilson. They both played really good defenses. They both just sort of had some struggles. I think Lawrence will be fine. I think Lawrence's issue is he just has to learn that he can't make every throw. There's certain throws he's not going to be able to make. And a lot of even some not interceptions could have been like even some of the plays that worked were a little bit dangerous. It makes sense. He came from Clemson where he could make every throw because there weren't as tight windows. Got to learn a little bit more. He'll be fine. Not a concerning performance, but not a good one either.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree. The touchdown throw was good. It was a good throw. It was a good play. So you give him credit for that. But yeah, I mean, there were mistakes in this game, but same sort of thing. Mistakes are kind of expected. I feel like we're justifying this way too much. Like, is everyone just disillusioned to quarterbacks struggling as rookies because Herbert and Burrow were pretty good last year?
Yeah, and Kyler wasn't as good as those two either, but he still showed like a good amount of. But even Kyler had some issues. But no one watched Kyler. I think really what it comes down to is we had 2 incredible rookie quarterback seasons, and now people are expecting that from everybody. Where it's like what Mac Jones is doing is incredible. Like Mac Jones coming in, like being like a solid like quarterback as a rookie, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like we're jumping. I feel like we do this in all sports though, because I've been seeing it in basketball too. Like, oh, Luka can't win a playoff series. Yeah, it's his 3rd season in the league, no duh. But it's the same. It's the same thing too in the NFL, where it's like we expect these automatic performances from these guys in their second start of their career. It's just not going to happen. I think Lawrence is going to have some very good games this season. I think Wilson's going to have some very good games this season. I just don't expect it to happen against maybe the best secondary in football.
Yeah, I also think another aspect of this might be, now that I'm thinking about it, is there were at least like 6 quarterbacks that people were very high on coming into this draft. Or I'll say at least 5 because, I was high on Kellen Mond. Some people were, some people weren't. But there was 5 first-round quarterbacks. So everyone pretty much had a guy, right? Whether it's Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, or Trevor Lawrence. So if you have a guy and your guy is Trey Lance, well, now you're going to sit here and say, wow, you chose Zach Wilson over Trey Lance. What a moron. because that kind of just makes you feel better. So I think that's an aspect as well, just sort of the competitiveness of all of these rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair. But hey, Broncos look pretty good. I don't know what to make of this team because I think the Giants and Jaguars stink. But there's a lot of promising stuff from this team. Like I said, I think they might have the best secondary in the league. Bridgewater's looked good in 2 weeks. And Cortland Sutton had a very good game this week, and that's something that you wanted to see too. A lot of things to like about the Broncos. We'll see how they go. AFC West is really competitive, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Also, thank you, Michael Lee, in the chat for the super chat. We do appreciate that. Sorry, it took me a minute to get there. Yeah, but the nice thing about the Broncos is we'll get to see them have a real test next week when they play the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Is this the easiest start to a season we've ever seen?
It might be. So
I mean, it's not like that's something I remember. So we can just say it is, and no one will, fact check.
No one's gonna fact check. I mean, honestly, like if this team ended up like 6-11 after starting 3-0, like I wouldn't be overly shocked. But I do think this is a competitive team too, so I think it's going to be pretty decent.
Yeah, well, then like the next 4 games after that, it's Ravens, Steelers, Raiders, Browns, like 4 like potential playoff teams, and even like Washington, Dallas, Philadelphia, Chargers after that, like Chiefs, like they have a bunch of tough matchups right after that. It's just that they start slow, so it should be fun. But yeah, I mean, hey, Broncos kind of been a fun surprise team. Teddy Bridgewater's looked nice, so it's cool. Any final thoughts on this one?
No, I think, we've talked more about this game than anybody else has in the world.
Yeah, I think even the people that played this game. This is one of those. So how was the game, honey? Let's just. I want to get home. Give me a beer. What's going on?
It's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. So all right, week 2 officially in the books. Also, nothing. I feel like people, maybe this is because I'm not a college football fan. Do people hate Urban Meyer? I've heard a lot of like, when is Urban Meyer going to retire? Should they fire him already? I'm kind of just like, well, hold on a second. Like, there's other head coaches that I think you should be talking about getting fired before Urban Meyer.
I mean, when he was a college coach, I always called him the Rick Pitino of college football.
Okay.
Which says a lot, but he was also better than Rick Pitino because he won a lot, and that obviously turns everybody else off. And he also basically, like, everywhere he went, he basically spurned the place on the way out. He burnt all of his bridges at, I think, Utah and Florida before going to Ohio State. And yeah, so I don't think there's a lot of Urban fans. He's kind of he's a bit of a snake. We'll put it that way.
Okay. Luke Brown says Lions win tomorrow 50-0. Luke, if that happens, you can come on the show on Wednesday to talk about that correct prediction. Has to be exactly 50-0 though. If it's 50-2, not invited.
You can have my Mac Jones jersey if it ends 50-0.
Okay. All right. Well, that should be interesting. Yeah, Kyle, we did this last week. Let's jump into future and say let's recap the Monday night game, Lions Packers. I can go first. Oh my God, Aaron Rodgers! Can you believe it? How incredible!
The Packers showed up and they won.
Yes, all right. We'll see if we nailed that one. But hey, Dan Campbell, hilarious. Yeah,
I love Dan Campbell. I don't even care.
I thought that interception by Jared Goff wasn't great.
Yeah.
and the other 3 weren't as also.
Hey, DeAndre Swift looks pretty good though. Hawkinson.
That's true.
That's a nice duo to build on.
And they got that big touchdown pass. Yes, it was against Kevin King, but it's still good 99-yard touchdown.
99 yards. Wow. Who's getting a 99-yard touchdown on the Lions?
Ooh, Jared Goff in a Philly special play.
Oh man. I don't see that happening.
On their own goal line, they're going to run the Philly special. Jared Goff gets it 99 yards. If that happens, cool. I will buy you a second Mac Jones jersey, Kyle. All right, that is our show. We went off the rails here at the end. Another long one, Kyle. An hour and 40 minutes. I don't know if we got to tighten these up at some point, but it's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of football to talk about. A lot of upsets early on, so it's like, we got to get into it. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we felt about these teams that we still need to see. I mean, there's still a lot of data that we need to see happen over the next few weeks, but we'll see who's the real contenders and pretenders.
Yeah, it should be good. And also, obviously, in a couple of weeks, we'll start to get the bye weeks, so that'll just naturally have it go shorter. But yep, fun stuff. Kyle, why don't you let them know where they can find us everywhere before we head out?
Yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel below or to the side, wherever it is on the page. Follow him at Jackson Kruger on Twitter. Follow me at by Kyle Gronin on Twitter. And then make sure to follow the account page that's at On the Sideline JK on Twitter. That's at On the Sideline JK. Make sure to follow us on Twitter there.
Yes. All right. And of course, as always, you can, if you're watching on YouTube, there is the audio only feed, or if you found us on the podcast feed, you can check out the YouTube channel, Jackson Kruger Sports Productions on YouTube. A lot of fun stuff there. And yeah. All right. So Kyle, week 2 in the books.
All right. Almost in the mid-season form already. I feel like we're feeling good. We're going to start getting some of these picks right. I guarantee that. And then, things will start going well from there.
Hey, 500. I went 5-3. You're 4-3. You need to. Packers pulled us out. We're both 500. We also 0-4 in our locks. We're trying our best.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick against the Ravens anymore. I guess that's the solution.
Yeah. And I guess can I not? I'm not going to pick. I'm not going to pick a team coached by Zach Taylor either. That's probably another solution. But all right, that is our show, everyone. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.